first of all, this is just it doesn't make sense, because the way we live today and the way where this gospel comes from doesn't make sense. But when you look at it in the long part of it, the chapter 15 of Luke, which is what we've had the previous weeks, it's all about Jesus sitting with, those tax collectors and those tent makers and the least, the last, the lost, and the little. And then we get to chapter 16, and it's everybody's favorite subject. It talks about money, which we all love to hear sermons about money in church, don't we? So it starts out this chapter with money with this, and what they use is the dishonest steward. But the word can be used so many different ways, and at one point, they use it as the wise steward. Now, don't you think dishonest and wise and shrewd, how do those all work together? It's just kind of a weird thing. But what you need to know about at that place in time, the community took care of everybody else. It was the communities were still small. And I can't imagine in this community that if there really was a need when a hurricane came through, everybody pitches together, don't they? We make phone calls to see who needs to have beadboard taken out of their house because it's had damage, and who needs to have food, and who needs to have hot water and respite set up for air conditioning. We do that as a community, and that's what they did at this place. So the underlying thing here was that, yes, we have to be responsible for everybody. But then we have this manager who obviously has been cheating his master. He has been skimming off the top, and the master finds out and says, what are we going to do about this? Now, there's several theories about why he does this. One of them says that he was padding the books from the get-go, that he had what the master charged, and then he had another 10% on top of that, and then that's the bill that he gave to the people. So when he came back and said, cut your bill, that the master was still getting everything the master had said, he just wouldn't take in his cut off the top. We don't know if that's the case or not. Again, we weren't there 2,000 years ago. But what we do know out of this is that this guy was so concerned because he said he was too old to dig and too proud to beg. So he was going to go and be dishonest and get his money that way. Now, I can really understand not being able to dig. I don't think I could dig right now. And I certainly wouldn't want to beg. It wouldn't be a good feeling. So he chose to go and just be dishonest and get it that way. And then he got rewarded for it. Who does that? So it leaves you with this weird kind of feeling like, how do we rectify this in our mind? But then it drops down and says you can only choose one God. So stop and think about that. Think how much time it took for this guy to figure out a way for him to get some money and then make people like him. Because, if you owed, I don't know, $100 and someone said, just pay me 80, wouldn't you kind of like this guy that said, just pay me 80? So he was getting brownie points is what he was doing as he was going off and lowering everything. Thinking, okay, these people, if they owe money, then they must have something, or they wouldn't have been lent the money to begin with. And so in that respect, when I get to where I need things, these people are going to owe me. So he really was using a owning system, a monetary system, even though it was deeds instead of money, is what he was doing. So he still was worshiping the power. Now, do you think if he really went to these people and explained to them what was going on, or if he had gone to his master to begin with and explained what was going on, can you imagine how much easier it would be? Not only for them, but for us 2,000 years later trying to figure out this parable. But any time that we put money as our God, it's going to get us in trouble every single time. And I have got to tell you, it is so easy to get into that trap. It is so easy to think the whole world revolves around, am I going to get this bill paid on time? And if I pay this bill, what's that not going to get paid? And how are we going to do all of this? And I've been there, and it's hard. And ultimately, what this is saying is that even when you start out with nothing, when you've got community, when you've got people here, you're never by yourself. You're never going to be out there with nobody there to help you. Yeah, does that mean you're going to get what you want, when you want it, how you want it? Not necessarily. But it does mean that you're not going to be left alone. Even if you're sitting on the corner and you have nothing in your pockets but lint, you're going to have someone sit beside you and say, I'm here for you. That's what Christian community is about. It's what we talked about today in Sunday school, and it's ultimately what it is, because being a Christian is not passive. It's not about sitting in the pews and listening to sermons. It's about going out these doors and making a difference in the world that you live in. You cannot serve two gods. You can only serve one. And sometimes the world makes money be the God that we're supposed to serve. But I'm here to tell you that God's so much bigger than the world, and that this community is here for you regardless of what is going on. And this community is amazing. I don't often ask you to do this either, but I'm going to have you raise your hand if you've received any help from anybody in this community in any way possible while you've been a member here. Yeah. When we first got here, we couldn't move all our furniture by ourselves, but we had people that stepped in and helped us with that. This community is there for you. All you have to do is ask. And it might not, and I'm not talking about money, I'm just talking about being there. So when you say that you are a Christian and you say that you follow Christ, what you're saying is, I am part of something so much bigger than I am. And it's a good feeling. It really is. And these young people that were up here, they got it. They didn't hesitate. Yes, I've got these coins. I'm going to help as many as I can. Except for brothers and sisters. And you know, that doesn't count, because if you can't do it to your brother and sister, who can you do it to, right? Doesn't matter how old you get. Anyway, you can only love one thing, and let it be God. And all God's people say, amen.